Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is KMG, and in today's tutorial we'll be learning how to make this trendy Ankara jumbo pants, or some persons also call it a baggy pant or trouser. So if it's something that you want to learn, believe me, this is the easiest method because it's well detailed, from learning how to make the trouser to putting up the pocket and also the elastic. So if you're new to this channel and you're yet to subscribe, please hit the subscribe button because I will be posting a lot of good tutorial videos here in this channel. So if you're interested in learning how to make these jumbo pants, please do engage in this video and let's get started. So to begin now, here are the materials needed: my 3 yards of Ankara fabric, my tape, my scissors, my chalk, and also my measurements. And here I have the length to be 43, my crotch depth is 11, my hip is 36, my waist is asterisk because I don't need waist measurement. I'll be using my hip measurement for my waist, okay? That is why I asterisked it. So next I went ahead is to actually place my material on a single fold, which I'll be cutting the front first, okay? So next I went ahead is towards measure the length of my trouser, and the length of my trouser is actually 43 inches. So now I'm going to place my tape, but remember that we have a waistband which is actually 2 inches. So I'm going to start my measurement from 2 inches, okay? And I'll take my tape down. But also, because we are going to be joining our trouser to our band, we need allowance. So I'm going to come down by 1.5 instead of 2. So when I sew it with my band, I'm going to come back to 2 inches. So I'll go ahead now and mark the length of my trouser, which is 43 inches. But also I'm equally going to add 2 inches for my folding allowance at the down part, okay? That's making it 45 inches. So I'll go ahead now and mark that all through the dress. So having marked that now, the next I'm going to go ahead to do is to mark out my hip line, and my hip line is actually 9 inches. So I'll go ahead now and mark my hip line there, okay, which is 9 inches. So after marking them and connecting them through, the next line I'm going to do is my crotch depth, which is actually 11. And how do I get my crotch depth? Is my hip measurement, which is 36 divided by 4, which is 9. I'm then going to add 1.5, making it 10.5. But I also like to add half inches. This actually works for me, making it 11 inches. So I'm going to mark that 11 inches all through. This is the method I've been using to calculate my crotch depth, and believe me, it has been working perfectly for me and all my clients' measurements. So after that now, because this is actually a palazzo trouser, we don't actually need a knee line. So next I'm going to go ahead to do is to determine my hip measurement, and my hip is actually 36 divided by 4. I'm going to add half 9. So here now, because it's actually a baggy trouser or pants, here I'm going to be adding, you can add like 5, you can add like 6, depending on how much material you have and depending on how big you want your baggy pants to be. So here I'm going to be adding 6, okay? So if I'm going to add 6 to 9 inches, I'm going to be having 15 inches. So I'll go ahead now and mark my 15 inches right here, and I'll replicate this measurement at my crotch line, okay? So I'm just going to connect that down, and I'll also go ahead and connect it to my waistline because I actually don't have a waist. This trouser is actually going with elastic or rope. So I'll go ahead and replicate 15 inches at the waist, and I'll simply connect it down, okay? So after that, next I'll go ahead to do is to determine my crotch extension. So for my size, I'm going to be adding 2 inches for my crotch extension. If you're a plus size person, you can be adding 2.5 or to 3 inches extension. So after that, I'll go ahead and connect this point to the extended part, okay, with a curved line. So after that, this is basically what we are going to have. So I'm just going to take my tape and measure from this point of my crotch line to the other end, okay? And I have 17 inches. So next I'm going to do is to go down by 4 inches from the crotch line. Now this is optional because I just want to give my trouser a kind of shape, okay? Normally I would have just taken this point down since it's actually a baggy pants, okay? There's no need for shape or anything, but I just want to give my own a kind of nice look. So that is why I'm creating this line. That is why I said this was optional. So on this line that I'm creating now, instead of me to connect this extension line, which is 17 normally, to the down of my trouser, I'm just going to get that hip line, okay? Now I'm not going to be using this 17 inches, which was my crotch line, okay? I'm not going to be using it. I'm not going to place it there. Instead, I'm going to use my hip line where I divided it by 4 to get 9 plus my 6 inches, making 15. So that's what I'm going to use. So I'm just going to place it on this line, new line that I created, okay? And I'm just going to mark that 15 there, and I'll connect it from the extension point to this other part. This is just so it could give it a nice look. Normally you can just do it straight since it's a baggy trouser. So after doing that, I will just go ahead now and replicate that 15 inches down to the end of the dress, and I'll connect them with a straight line. Okay, I hope this explains it very well. So like I said, it's optional. So after marking that, I'll go ahead and cut out what I'll be needing for the tutorial, and I'll also go ahead and split this end. So after that, next I'll go ahead to do is to fold my material into two so that I can be able to cut my back, and I'll go ahead and place my front piece on top of my back material. So when placing it, ensure that you leave a space at the upper part, because that part will be created for your butt. Okay, that's the extra allowance needed for your butt. So for my butt now, I'm going to be adding extra allowance of 1.5 on top before placing my front material. So if you're someone who is of big butts, you are going to be using something around 2 inches, 2.5, even 3 inches, depending on how big your butt is. But for me, I'm working with 1.5. Okay, so having done that, I'm going to align my dresses together, and then from the extension part of my crotch depth, I'm going to be adding 2 inches. This actually varies. For my size, I added 2 extra inches. Okay, for some persons it's 2.5, and some others it can be 3 inches. So at this point now, I'm going to connect this point up to that 1.5 that was created. You can see the 1.5 line there, and then I'll just go ahead and connect it with a slanted line towards the side of my trouser. I hope I explained it well. Okay, now having extended your crotch depth by 2 inches, I'm just going to go ahead and extend to 2 inches in my center front in order to connect back to the extension line. I hope I explained this well. So next now is that on this part of our trouser, I'm going to be adding 1 inches right in front of that line that I created that is optional, but this one you are going to do it. Okay, you're going to be adding 1 inches in front of your trouser. So after that, you're going to be cutting out what you are going to be needing for this tutorial. So after cutting it now, I'll go ahead and split the sides open for my back trouser. Okay, so this is what we'll have here, and next I'll go ahead is to stitch the midpoint of my both back and front trouser, and basically also hem the down part of my trouser as well. So this is what we have after stitching the midpoint. This is the back. I've equally gone ahead to hem the down part. So, and this is also the front part, which I've already done the same. So what I'm going to do next is to put my pocket. So I'm going to keep the back aside because we'll be needing the pocket alone. So having placed the front piece and aligned them well together, I went ahead to cut out of 4 pieces of square material, which I'll be using for my pockets. They are all equal. Okay, so I'll be using 4 of them on this front. So you can see the measurement I'm using here for this pocket is 12 by length and then 8 inches by width. That is what I'm going to be using for my pocket. Okay, so I'm just going to keep 2 aside. Like I said, they are 4, so I'm going to keep 2 aside and work with 2. So I'll go ahead and align these 2 properly, ensure their right sides are facing each other. Okay, and here you can see my trouser, the wrong side of the front are facing each other. Okay, so from this point of my waist, I'm just going to mark 7 inches down. Okay, once I mark that from the waist side, I'm going to mark 3.5 inches from the waist. Okay, so having done that, next I'll do is to connect those points together with a slanted line. And having marked that, what I'll basically do next is to take these 2 pocket flap I have here, which are aligned properly together. As you can see, I'm confirming that they are well aligned, and I'm going to place it directly under my front trouser. Make sure they are facing each other. Okay, same thing with your trouser. You can see the wrong sides are facing each other so that the right side can be shown up. Okay, that is what you are seeing here. So after aligning the pocket flap and the trouser together, I'll go ahead and cut that line that I've made there. So now this is basically what we have. I'm going to carefully bring these 2 flap of pockets out together, and I'll go ahead and open up my trouser this way, and this is basically what we are going to have for our trouser. Okay, so Now the next thing I'm going to do is to take this part. I'm going to separate it. Now that part where I have cut, I'll make sure that I take this front part, because this is the front part of my trouser and this is the front part of the pocket. Make sure that their faces are facing each other. Don't do the other way around, okay? So I'm going to place it this way. Let the parts that are cut be matching each other. Align them properly, and I'm going to use my pin and pin it so I can go ahead to stitch it. Do not stitch this down part, okay? Just stitch where the 7 inches was marked, and you're going to have something like this, okay, once you are done stitching. So having done this, I will go ahead and do it to the other part of my trouser, just the same way as I explained. Ensure the right side of the pocket and the trouser are facing each other, and then I'm going to stitch. So after stitching it, I equally went ahead to top stitch it, which I have done, and this is basically what we have here, okay? And I did that for the other side of the trouser. So after that, this is basically what we're going to have, okay? So next I'm going to bring the other 2 pockets that we kept aside, and I'm just going to take one so that I can place it on the first pocket flap we attached to the trouser, okay? So while placing it, ensure that the right side are facing each other, okay? Very important. So while doing that, equally ensure that their edges, there's this edge of this pocket flap is facing this other one, okay? Let their edges be in line. So after that, I'm just going to use pin to secure this part, because I'm going to be stitching all this part round by 1/2 inches. So you're supposed to have something like this after you are done fixing, okay? Remember that part that we cut out initially from the trouser and also the pocket. Now this part that you just placed has replaced that part. Now remember, we removed 3.5, so you can see here that your 3.5 has been replaced, okay? So that's the essence of the other one, and this is what you're going to have, okay? So like I said earlier, ensure that their right sides are facing each other before you place them properly, and equally use your pin towards secure all around. If you do it the other way around, it's not going to work. You find that the wrong side of the pocket flap is actually showing outside, which is totally wrong. So please ensure you place them appropriately. Let their right sides be facing each other, okay? So after that, I'm just going to use my pin to secure the parts where I'm going to be stitching down. After that, now I'll go ahead and stitch all this parts by 1/2 inches, okay? And in order not for the pockets to dangle inside the trouser, I'll go ahead and stitch this pocket flap directly on the waist of the trouser and equally at the side of the trouser, so it doesn't dangle, okay? So this is basically what we're going to have by the time we are done. Next, I will go ahead and do it to the other part of the trouser. Remember, like I said earlier, ensure to align them properly and go ahead to stitch. And this is basically what we're going to have. As you can see, I have placed my pocket. It's no longer dangling because I attached it to the pocket properly, and this is what it looks like, okay? So you can see that for the other side. So next I'm going to do after this is to introduce my back of my trouser, and I'm going to place it on top of my front trouser, ensuring that their sides are well aligned together, okay? Then I'm going to stitch this side by 1 inch, and to the other side I'll stitch it by 1 inch as well. Then to the midpoint of our trouser, ensure the midpoint of both front and back are facing each other, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch that part by 1/2 inch and into the other side as well. And I'll just go ahead to use my pin to support it down before taking it to the machine to sew, okay? So after that, this is basically what we're going to have. Everything is coming out neat, and next I'll go ahead to do is to put my band. And for me to do that, I'm going to get my tape. Starting from the side point, I'm just going to measure round carefully so that I can get the measurement for my waistband. So after measuring everything, I was able to get 60 inches, like you can see here. So I've gone ahead to actually cut a long strap that I'll be using for my waistband, okay? Remember that we actually removed 2 inches while cutting our trouser length. So I'm going to get 2 inches plus 1/2 inch for joining, okay? That's 2.5 inches when you place it on fold. So for the full length of the waistband, I worked with 60 inches, but I'm going to be adding 1 inches, okay? This 1 inch I'm actually adding is because I'm going to be joining this waist to the other end of the waist. I'm going to be joining by half inches. That is how we got our 1 inch additional to this waistband, okay? So that's, like I said, this reason why I added the 1 inch is because I'm going to be joining this part together. So I'll take it to machine now and sew, and this is basically what it looks like after stitching. So next I will go ahead is to fold it down so that I can stitch it with my machine, okay? But if you're going to be using an elastic, what you're simply going to do is to open up your band, and then you're going to place your elastic at the side, stitch it down, and you're going to stretch it round to the other part and stitch it down. Then you will close up and top stitch your elastic in 2 lanes. While you're stitching, you're going to be dragging, but in this case I'm going to be using rope. Okay, so what I just necessarily need to do is just to fold it down. I'm going to pin it so that it can be easy for me while sewing my machine. So I'm just going to pin all around before taking it to the machine to sew. Okay, so carefully do that, and after that, this I'll go ahead and stitch it. So I have gone ahead to stitch everything in order to make it easy for me when joining to my trouser, so it doesn't shift. Okay, so I'm just going to take that point where I joined in my belt, that is my band, sorry. I'm just going to attach it towards the back of my trouser. That is where I'm going to begin the joining from. So I'm just going to use my pin to support it down for easy sewing. Okay, so I'm carefully going to do that. It's going to take time, but you just need to do it, and I'll go ahead and stitch it. And this is basically what we have. Everything has come out neatly and beautiful. So next I'm going to do is put my rope, and for me to do that, I'm going to mark out the midpoint of my band, which is starting from that middle point of your front trouser. So I'm just going to mark that, and I will go in by 1 inch at both sides. Okay, so I'm just going to mark 1 inch here and mark 1 inch from the middle point at both sides. Okay, after that I'm just going to cut it out, but while cutting, prevent cutting the other part of it. Okay, so after I cut this, I'll go ahead and cut the other part where I'm going to be inserting my rope. Okay, I need to come out through the other side. So this is my long strap of rope that I've already made. It is as long as possible that we're able to go around the trouser. Okay, so I'm just going to insert it with my safety pin and take it round and bring it to the other part of the trouser. And this is basically what we are going to have for our trouser. Okay, everything has come out so beautiful and nice. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and impactful and you're yet to subscribe, please do hit the subscribe button now, like, and also share to your friends who you may also want them to learn something about this video. Okay, so thank you for watching, and see you in my next video. Bye.